They once said Burkina Faso was just a speck in the desert, no oil, no sea, no hope. But maybe they forgot. When a people are stripped of everything, what remains is will. And when that will rises, it doesn't just rebuild a nation, it rewrites the meaning of independence. In a world where power is measured by weapons and wealth, a small nation chose something different, pride and sovereignty. No aid, no orders from the North Burkina Faso is quietly building a model no one expected. A country that builds itself, feeds itself, heals itself, and governs its own destiny. Where there was once sand and hunger, now sunlight is turned into power. In villages once silent, there are the sounds of looms weaving and children learning under clean, bright light. A land once called the poorest in the world is becoming a symbol of a new era, where Black people no longer beg for the right to live, but create their own future. And standing at the heart of that storm is not a king, but a young soldier, Ibrahim Traore. He didn't promise paradise. He simply said, "We no longer wait for miracles. We will be the miracle." And but from tomato fields to solar power plants, from hospitals to the National Bank, 10 projects have made the world look again, not with pity, but with awe. Because what Burkina Faso is building is more than infrastructure. It is the declaration of a people who refuse to bow. And today, we'll take you deep into that journey, brick by brick, light by light, river by river, to witness an Africa reborn by its own hands. If you believe that true power comes not from aid, but from will, if you believe that freedom is not a gift, but a decision, then like, share, and subscribe to Sovereign Africa, where we tell the stories the world tried to hide. Because this isn't just the story of Burkina Faso. It's a wake-up call to every nation ever called weak. And if you're hearing this, maybe you're already part of that rebirth. Every revolution begins with something that seems small. In Burkina Faso, it began with a tomato. Those bright red, life-filled fruits once lay forgotten on cracked fields. Farmers grew them but couldn't sell them. They watched their own harvest rot by the roadside, then saw it shipped back from Europe, canned, labeled, and sold at triple the price. That wasn't just unfair. It was a humiliation passed down through generations. Then Traoré appeared. He didn't shout slogans. He didn't hand out charity. He built a factory, just $8 million, but it was the first strike against dependency. That factory didn't just press tomatoes, it pressed out a truth. We will no longer let our sweat become someone else's profit. Since the Red Gold Factory began operating, baskets of tomatoes are no longer thrown away. They're processed, packaged, and sold under the label Made in Burkina Faso. Over 150 workers now have jobs. Thousands of farmers have stable contracts. And above all, pride has returned. For the first time, the people saw that the value of their work is no longer decided by the world, but by themselves. A tomato is not just food. It's a declaration of sovereignty on the dinner table. Every red can of sauce carries a message. We don't need aid, we need fairness. And as people began to eat what they themselves produced, they started to believe that if a tomato can become gold, then they too can become masters of their own destiny. Traoré understands this. Revolution doesn't start in parliament. It begins in kitchens, in fields, in factories. Every worker, every drop of sweat, is a brick in the wall of sovereignty. And if a nation can feed itself, no power on earth can force it to its knees. So if you believe that independence is not a slogan but a daily act, hit like, share this video, and subscribe to Sovereign Africa to spread the spirit of red gold. From silent fields, a new empire is rising, an empire of self-reliance, of faith, and of the people. If red gold was the seed planted in the soil, then the corridor is the road that lets that seed reach the world. Because you can grow, you can produce, but if you can't move what you make beyond your borders, you're still a prisoner of them. Burkina Faso knows this truth better than anyone. A landlocked nation, surrounded by borders and dependency, forced for decades to rely on routes controlled by others. Every ton of goods passed through foreign hands. Every mile of road was a reminder of submission. Then Traoré said something that made the world stop and listen. If the road is a chain, then we will build our own. And so began the $120 million journey, not just to open a route, but to redefine the meaning of economic sovereignty. Today, the Bobo Dioulasso Ivory Coast motorway stands like a new artery, connecting the agricultural heart of Burkina Faso to the ocean. Goods move faster, middlemen disappear, and value returns to the hands of those who create it. Along this highway, towns once asleep are waking up, children can reach schools more easily, farmers bring their harvests to market, and local businesses finally see a horizon of hope. Each stretch of asphalt is a reminder that independence is not written on paper. It's paved, built, and owned by the hands that sweat beneath the Sunday. This is no longer just a road, it's a symbol of control over destiny. When the first wheels rolled across that fresh asphalt, Burkina Faso sent a message to the world. We no longer need anyone to make the way for us. So if you believe that freedom is not a gift, but a road you must build yourself, hit like, share this video, and subscribe to Sovereign Africa to follow the journey, where every mile, every drop of tar is writing the resurrection story of Africa. You can build factories, pave roads, grow tomatoes, but if night still swallows your villages, then independence remains only a dream. For decades, when the sun set, Burkina Faso fell into darkness. Children studied by oil lamps, doctors operated with flashlights. An entire nation functioned in the shadows of dependence. Then Traoré looked up at the Sahel sky and said, "Light is not just to see, it is to set people free." From that vision was born Project Yellen the Light, not powered by oil, not by gas, but by the sun itself, something Burkina Faso had in abundance, yet was never allowed to call its own. In just a few years, more than 150 villages were connected. Over 300,000 people flipped a switch and watched darkness retreat for the first time. But beyond the numbers lies the political meaning of light. Because when electricity no longer flows from foreign grids or aid agencies, it becomes a symbol of energy sovereignty. In one small village, a woman named Aisha can now keep milk cold for her child. At schools, teachers can teach after sunset. At clinics, vaccines no longer spoil for lack of power. And in every home, light is no longer a luxury. It is proof that a nation can illuminate itself. What makes Yellen special is that it doesn't just light rooftops, it lights faith. The engineers, electricians, and builders are all locals, trained, trusted, and proud. They don't work for foreign corporations. They work for their own future. Every solar panel installed is a vote cast for freedom. Traoré doesn't need to speak much. The light speaks for him. When the sun of Burkina Faso rises, it doesn't just shine on the fields. It shines on an Africa rediscovering itself. If you believe Africa's future must be powered by African hands, hit like, share this video, and subscribe to Sovereign Africa so the light of truth and pride never fades. When light spread across the villages, Traoré asked his next question, can a nation truly be free if its people still die for lack of treatment? Because sovereignty is not just about energy or infrastructure, it's about the right to live. And from that vision rose Bobo Hospital, the regional university hospital of Bobo Dioulasso, a temple of life built from the belief that dignity begins with care. Before this, in western Burkina Faso, illness often meant destiny. A fever could become a sentence. Many had to travel hundreds of kilometers to the capital just to be diagnosed. The poorest, especially women and children, often never made it that far. But when the first concrete walls of Bobo Hospital began to rise, people understood this wasn't just a medical project, it was a declaration of human worth. Traoré didn't want a replica of a Western hospital. He wanted a symbol of African strength, a place where patients are treated with modern technology, inside buildings crafted by Burkinabe hands, run by doctors, nurses, and technicians trained by their own nation. No more dependence on foreign experts. No more costly flights sending the rich abroad while the poor are left to die. Today, Bobo Hospital is called the new heart of the Southwest. It is more than a hospital, it's a medical and educational hub where healing and knowledge unite. Young doctors are trained here. Ambulance networks and health databases are connected online, powered by energy from the Yellen project. A nation is weaving its own lifeline, one where science serves people, not profit. And when a mother walks through the hospital gates, child in arms, her weary yet radiant eyes have become the symbol of a new hope. For the first time, life is no longer a privilege, it is a right. Bobo Hospital heals more than bodies. It heals the national soul. It tells the world, we don't have to leave our land to live. We can live and thrive right here. If you believe that human dignity cannot be priced, if you believe that the health of a people is the strength of a nation, hit like, share this video, and subscribe to Sovereign Africa, where we tell the stories of those who are healing an entire continent. After light and life, What Burkina Faso needed most was water, the simplest element, yet the one that decides the fate of millions. For centuries, the people lived with thirst as a constant companion. When the dry season came, streams vanished into stone. Women and children walked for hours just to carry home a few cans of muddy water. In the capital, Ouagadougou, water became a luxury. Hospitals rationed hand washing, schools lacked enough for students, and the dry season turned the city into a land of dust and despair. Traoré understood this truth deeply. A nation cannot be sovereign if it cannot control its own water. And so he made a decision no one before him had dared to build Ziga 2, the Dam of Life and Sovereignty. Ziga 2 is more than an engineering feat. It is a declaration of war against scarcity. Built east of the capital, it was designed to store tens of millions of cubic meters of water, enough to supply hundreds of thousands of homes, hospitals, and factories. But its true power lies not in its size, but in its spirit. The engineers, workers, and designers were overwhelmingly Burkinabe. They didn't wait for foreign donors. They became the builders of their nation's lifeblood. With modern filtration systems and solar-powered pumping stations connected to the Yellen project, Ziga 2 stands as a living model of self-sustained development. It now feeds not just the capital, but also the farms, industries, and schools that depend on it. And every drop that flows from Ziga 2 doesn't just quench thirst, it nourishes the belief that our survival is no longer in someone else's hands. On the day the dam was inaugurated, people gathered by the shimmering artificial lake, watching sunlight dance across the Sahel water. Some wept, others smiled, because they knew this was more than water. It was a symbol of control over destiny. From the first trickles of Ziga 2, Burkina Faso proved that freedom doesn't come from waving flags. It comes from the smallest acts of sovereignty. A grain of clean rice, a sip of clear water, a river held in the people's hands. If you believe that a nation's true strength lies in mastering its own resources, hit like. Share this video and subscribe to Sovereign Africa to spread the message that when water flows from the motherland, freedom begins to flow from the people. When the water began to flow, when the light spread, when life itself was healed, Traoré asked one final question. How long can a people stay proud if they still live in homes unworthy of their dignity? And so was born Faso Mayo, the most ambitious urban reconstruction project in Burkina Faso's history, where every roof became a symbol of human worth. Before this, on the outskirts of Ouagadougou, shanty huts stretched endlessly, where rain meant flooding, sun meant fire, and people lived in fear that their roofs might collapse at any moment. It was not just material poverty, it was poverty of faith, of hope. Faso Mayo came to change that, not with promises, but with bricks, cement, and real hands. The project aims to build 50,000 new homes, not for the elite, but for those who build the nation itself: teachers, carpenters, nurses, workers, and farmers. Homes powered by Yellen's light, supplied by Ziga 2's water, connected by paved roads leading to markets, schools, and hospitals. No more poor districts versus rich districts. In Faso Mayo, every family has the right to live with dignity. What makes this project extraordinary is how it was built. No foreign contractors, no aid logos, only the people of Burkina Faso designing, building, and overseeing their own future. Materials came from their soil, labor from their hands. Those once unemployed became masons, engineers, architects. Each brick laid down is a promise that rebirth doesn't descend from above, it rises from the ground. Faso Mayo doesn't just build houses, it rebuilds faith. It proves that this nation can take care of its own. And when a mother opens the door of her new home, the light of Yellen spills in, reflecting on her child's smiling face. That simple moment is freedom itself. If you believe that dignity begins with a roof, that every person deserves a place to dream, hit like, share this video, and subscribe to Sovereign Africa to witness an Africa building its own future, brick by brick, light by light, home by home. When the homes were built, another question rose in Traoré's mind. What keeps the people's dream alive? The answer wasn't in weapons or infrastructure, it was in faith and finance. For decades, the money of Burkina Faso never truly belonged to its people. Foreign banks controlled credit, profits flowed abroad. Meanwhile, the farmers, the artisans, those who created real value, were left behind. So Traoré decided to rewrite the rules. He founded Burkina Bank, the people's first bank for the people. Built not for profit, but with one mission: to free citizens from financial slavery. Here, a woman selling goods on the street can open an account in her own name. A farmer can borrow to buy a tractor. A young entrepreneur can start a business without needing guarantees from the powerful. But Burkina Bank doesn't just lend money, it lends trust. Branches have opened in the most remote regions, using local languages, staffed by local people, and powered by a mobile app developed through the PAC Digital project, ensuring no one is left behind in the digital age. And as money began to flow not from north to south, but from the heart of the nation outward, the true power of financial sovereignty was felt for the first time. Burkina Bank became the thread that connects everything. Families buying homes in Faso Mayo with local loans, farmers from Red Gold expanding production, small businesses growing with credit sourced from within the country itself. For the first time, the economy of Burkina Faso revolves around its own people. Traoré once said, "When a citizen can deposit money without fear of losing it, that's when a nation begins to be free." Ends. Burkina Bank is more than a financial institution. It is the circulatory system of independence. If you believe that sovereignty doesn't just live on a map, but in every coin kept in the hands of its people, hit like, share this video, and subscribe to Sovereign Africa. To spread the story of Burkina Bank, where money is no longer a chain, but a tool of liberation. If Red Gold was the revolution of agriculture, and Yellen the revolution of light, then PAC Digital is the revolution of knowledge, where data becomes the new territory, and control of information becomes the true sovereignty of the digital age. For decades, national records from finance to education to healthcare were stored or managed on foreign servers. That meant even information about the citizens of Burkina Faso didn't truly belong to Burkina Faso. A country may have an army and a constitution, but if its data lies in someone else's hands, it is not yet free. Traoré understood that deeply. He didn't just want light to shine on the land, he wanted light to shine into the digital world, where every decision about the future is now born. Thus began the PAC Digital project, the Digital Transformation Acceleration Project, with a clear mission: to bring national sovereignty into the digital realm. 2 national data centers rose fortresses of information. There, every record of health, education, finance, and citizenship is stored, protected, and managed by Burkinabe engineers. Public services have been transformed. Citizens can register documents, licenses, birth certificates, scholarships, even medical appointments, all from a single phone. No more endless lines, no more bribes, no more outdated paperwork. But PAC Digital isn't just changing bureaucracy, it's liberating a generation. Young people are being trained in tech. Women are learning to run online businesses. Farmers are selling their crops through digital markets. A new digital economy is taking shape, not powered by Silicon Valley, but by the rising minds of Burkina Faso itself. Burkina Faso is connecting to the world not to dissolve into it, but to take control of its own network. Because in the 21st century, whoever controls the data controls the power. And for the first time, that power no longer rests in Paris or Washington, but in Ouagadougou. Traoré said it best: "We no longer hold only the hoe, we hold the keyboard. We no longer defend just our borders, we defend our data." That is the new front line of freedom. If you believe Africa doesn't just need land to farm, but also digital space to live and thrive, hit like, share this video, and subscribe to Sovereign Africa to witness the silent revolution transforming Burkina Faso into the tech heart of the Sahel. When the nation had stepped into the digital age, when data was protected and information finally belonged to the people, Traoré returned to the most essential element of all: water. Because technology can connect the world, but only water can sustain life. And he understood that while the countryside needed Zigatu to drink, the cities needed a just system to breathe. Thus began the Urban Water Sector Project, a vast initiative not only to bring water into every home, but to revive the very structure of the cities themselves. Ouagadougou, Bobo Dioulasso, and dozens of other urban centers were reshaped not to destroy, but to heal. Streets once flooded in the rainy season and bone dry in the dry season now have new, resilient pipelines directly connected to Zigatu's source. Poor neighborhoods where families once paid 5 times the normal price for a single bucket now have public taps. Over 600,000 people now have access to clean water and 400,000 enjoy modern sanitation. Not from aid, but from the nation's own budget and labor. But what makes this project extraordinary isn't the numbers, it's the way it connects water with dignity. In the past, women at the markets carried water for miles, children went to school in dust-stained clothes. Now, when water flows from the tap, they aren't just washing their hands, they are washing away generations of neglect. To Traoré, water is the truest symbol of social justice. He once said, "A truly strong nation isn't the one with gold in its soil, but the one that guarantees water on its people's tables." And as water begins to move through every pipe, it doesn't just nourish the land, it nourishes belief that this state serves its people, not profit. From Yellen to Ziga 2, from Faso Mayo to Burkina, every project converges here in the endless current of will and rebirth. Burkina Faso is not just thirsting for freedom, it is quenching the thirst of its own history. If you believe that water is a right, not a favor, hit like. Share this video and subscribe to Sovereign Africa to spread the message. When water begins to flow from the earth, dignity begins to rise from the human heart. When the waters had begun to flow and the cities had come back to life, Traoré turned his gaze toward the countryside, where the soul of Burkina Faso still beats in the sound of cowbells and the soft steps of goats across dry fields. There, wealth isn't measured by money in the bank, but by the health of the herd. Yet for decades, that quiet prosperity had been strangled by disease, by low prices, by the absence of veterinary care. The herders, the guardians of the land, were trapped in a cycle of poverty. Traoré knew that if a nation is to be rebuilt, it must begin where the earth still smells of grass. And so was born the Livestock Sector Development Support Project, a quiet, enduring revolution that is turning herds of cattle, goats, and sheep into the new pillars of the Sahel economy. Under the guidance of the state and local agricultural engineers, mobile veterinary teams were created. They travel from village to village, vaccinating animals, teaching new techniques, helping families protect their most precious possession, their livelihood. Mortality rates have dropped sharply. Production of meat, milk, and hides has soared. But that was only the beginning. The government began building an entire supply chain, dairy processing plants, cold storage facilities, and leather export centers. With Burkina as the financial backbone, farmers can now access loans to expand their herds, buy new breeds, or invest in tools, grass cutters, milk presses, storage systems. Everything now works like a living network, where the grasslands are no longer a symbol of poverty, but a living emblem of rebirth. These are not just animals, Traoré once said. They are the wheels of freedom. When the herds are healthy, the countryside is strong. And when the countryside is strong, the nation cannot be defeated. Today, across the Sahel, herds move along newly paved roads, stop by Ziga II's waters, rest under the light of Yellen. Each hoofprint pressed into the red soil marks the revival of an economy reborn from dust and drought. The Livestock Project isn't a story about meat or milk. It's a story about dignity. People once called weak now teach the world that true strength doesn't rise from skyscrapers, but from the hands that rebuild the future from the simplest things. If you believe that true prosperity begins from the land, hit like, share this video, and subscribe to Sovereign Africa to spread the spirit of the four-legged revolution, where small steps are marching toward great freedom. From the tomato to the current, from the road to the river, from the bank to the data, every piece has come together into one vision. Burkina Faso is being reborn, not through weapons, not through slogans, but through action. Every project of Traoré Red Gold, Yellen, Faso Mayo, Burkina, Pact Digital, Ziga 2 is a simple answer to one profound question. How can a small nation stand as an equal to the world without losing its soul? And the answer is this: do it yourself. No waiting for miracles. No borrowing faith. No signing away the future on contracts written by others. Burkina Faso is not fighting against the world. It is simply daring to say, we no longer wish to live by someone else's design. End foot. Traoré understands that the truth of power doesn't live in speeches, but in the simplest acts. When a farmer can sell his own harvest, when a child can study under the light at night, when a mother can take her child to a hospital in her own land without asking anyone's permission. That is freedom in its purest, most human form. And what about the world? Empires that once believed they had bought Africa's soul are being forced to look again. Because in the heart of the Sahel, a small nation has done the unthinkable to build without begging. And once a people realize they can stand on their own, no power on earth can make them kneel again. No one is born to be ruled, Traoré said. We are only taught to forget our own strength. And today, from the red earth of Burkina Faso, Africa is remembering, learning again the first lesson of freedom. If you feel pride when you hear this, if you believe that freedom is not a concept but an action, hit. Like, share this video, and subscribe to Sovereign Africa to help us tell the stories the world once tried to hide. Because this is not just the story of Burkina Faso. It is the story of every people reclaiming the right to dream, to live, and to lead their own destiny. And if you are hearing this, remember, history is not written by those who wait. It is written by those who begin. Begin today.